Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to the co-anchor, to my friend and colleague, the gentleman from New York, Representative Jeffries. I appreciate your leadership and the leadership of the Congressional Black Caucus in focusing this hour on such an important issue as the increasing cost of attending higher education in this country. You know, Mr. Speaker, this week graduations are being held across the country. Families are celebrating the achievement of students who have worked hard for the last 4 years or more to earn their degree. So I find it ironic that on this week, when Americans are celebrating the achievement of students who have worked so hard, that my colleagues on the other side would propose such a hypocritical piece of legislation as H.R. 1911. H.R. 1911 is nothing but a bait-and-switch scheme that makes attending college more expensive. Can you imagine that? Proposing a piece of legislation that costs the American people more to go to college? People are already struggling to go to college as it is. According to the CBO estimates, federal student interest rates will be higher than current fixed rates for millions of borrowers. That means that if you're financing your college now, it's likely you will be paying more once you graduate under the Republican plan than you would today. H.R. 1911 makes student loan interest rates change year to year based on the 10-year Treasury note, marked up by 2.5% to 4.5%. So to be plain, when next year's freshmen graduate and start having to repay their loans in 2017, their interest rate on that loan taken out in their freshman year is projected to be 7.4%, more than double today's current 3.4% rate for subsidized Stafford loans. For a freshman starting college this fall who borrows the maximum annual loan under the Department of Education, their subsidized and unsubsidized loan program, they will pay about $2,000 more in interest under H.R. 1911. Now, why is this so appalling? We recently learned that the Department of Education this year alone is expected to make $51 billion in profit off of students financing their education. Now, some of you may ask, how is it that the Department of Education is making a $51 billion profit when American families and students are struggling to even pay the tuition costs that they have? You know, we teach our children that it's important to save, to be responsible with their money, and to get a good education. But with the system set up the way it is right now, those goals are mutually exclusive. How are students supposed to save? When will they be able to pay off a record $1.1 trillion in debt that they are saddled with now? It was just reported that there is more debt on student loans than there are in credit card payments in America. How do we begin to consider, to plan their lives, to prepare to buy a home when they're trapped under a mountain of debt? You know, I have students that come to me when we have Congress on our college campuses, and they express great fear and trepidation about their future. They're working so hard. I have single parents who are literally taking every dollar from the 2 jobs that they work to be able to afford their college tuition. And I cannot go back to them and tell them that my colleagues on the other side proposed a bill that makes the college cost for their loans to double. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable when companies like J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Citigroup, and Wells Fargo reported a combined profit of $51.9 billion, and the Department of Education has the same amount of profit as those four companies combined. And so, Mr. Speaker, my colleagues in the Congressional Black Caucus, I got to say that we've got to tackle H.R. 1911. We have to figure out a way to come up with amendments to keep the interest rates on college loans at 3.4% as they are now, or to ensure that they're capped at a level that is predictable, students. But we also have to address this other underlying issue. It is not fair to American students that they are working harder and harder, that their families are struggling, and yet there's $1 billion profit that's going to the Department of Education, a $51 billion profit that comes back and goes to the Treasury to pay down the debt, and yet corporations continue to get tax incentives and corporate subsidies. Enough is enough, Mr. Speaker. Enough is enough. When are we going to require major corporations to do their part? Enough is enough. College students in America have worked too hard. Families have struggled for too long. The hope of a college education that so many people strive for is costing more and more, and now my colleagues on the other side want it to cost even more. And so we're here tonight to say no. That is not going to happen, not on our watch, and we're going to fight and work hard until it does not. Now, I got two questions to my colleague, and then I'm going to yield back the time. I tweeted out hashtag CBC Talks, and I asked constituents to send in a question or two that I could respond to. I was asked by constituent David Webb, a counselor. He said, wouldn't increasing student loans, the student loan interest rate, discourage minorities' ability to go to college? Well, absolutely. The answer to that is yes. If the cost to attend college and take out loans for college will double, it's already too high now. Too many students are foregoing their chance to get a college education because they can't afford it. This will just make it worse. I was also asked by constituent Troy Amaro. He asked if H.R. 1330 is passed by using the 10-10 scenario, what happens to the rest of the debt that is unpaid? So I want to thank him for his question, and I know we are working on the Student Loan Fairness Act, which offers a 10-to-10 repayment plan that would require borrowers to make 10 years of payment on their federal student loans at a 10% rate of their discretionary income. And then once that period is done, then the loan would be forgiven. Those are the types of solutions that we need to be working on so that college can be more affordable for the American student and the American family. And I'm hopeful to my co-anchor and to the members of the Congressional Black Caucus that we will continue to raise our voice on this issue and to make it clear that the proposal by our colleagues on the other side, H.R. 1991, is not a solution. It is costing the American people more for college at a time when they can least afford it. I yield back.
Thank the distinguished gentleman for